Okay, great. And also just to quickly give you guys a rundown of the overarching details of the data you are receiving from Marius. Basically, the way this will work in game is I'm not going to list everything Marius is giving you because he's giving you a fucking encyclopedia of Moscow underworld information. What you'll get to do is basically roll 15 SR4 anytime there's a subject that could be in Marius's info, and based on how many hits you guys get on that 15 SR4 is what information there is. But just to go over the topics, the real vampire societies of Moscow. Yes, there are actually vampires in Moscow that have basically not so much infiltrated the nobility bloodline, but basically the nobility bloodline welcomed the vampires in and has utilized the vampire curse to bolster themselves. This has made them a prime target of vampire hunters the world over, and they...
It was Vampire the Masquerade. Okay.
Yeah, basically. And they, in return, have been funding something they call the Beast to counter the hunters. The Beast is, well, they don't have a lot of data on the Beast, but what they do have is that it has single-handedly taken out every single vampire hunter that has been foolish enough to try and go after the nobility.
So, are we talking like just single vampire hunters, or are we talking like a cadre of vampire hunters working together and this thing's taking them out?
Usually it's been one-on-one. However, just about a year ago, a group of 5 vampire hunters came in as a team. And the news picked up this story at first, but then it was written off as just a prank, a hoax. Basically, the vampire nobles paid off the media to say, no, you're going to tell everyone this was a hoax. But what happened was, in the streets, violent anarchy as 5 vampire hunters were mercilessly slaughtered by a single gigantic assailant. Giant, troll, it's hard to say for sure, but it was in power armor.
A giant or a troll in power armor. Who do we know that sounds like that?
This thing, however, has been hired by the vampires to hunt vampire hunters. So there's plenty of rumors that the Beast is also infected with the human metahuman vampire virus.
And I can't recall off the top of my head what trolls and giants get afflicted with when they infect them.
Next up, unless, well, now we'll go. Yakuza and Evo, possible connections. Yeah, no, like Evo subsidiaries in Yakuza, there are a few spatterings here and there, but Yakuza is mostly in bed with, was it Renraku or Mitsuhama?
It's Mitsuhama and Rinraku, pretty much all the Japanese companies.
But no, Evo is kind of divesting itself from the organized crime and is allying itself more with Shadowrunners these days. People and organizations working in kidnapping and human trafficking. There's going to be a fucking laundry list because there's a thriving market in Russia for that. Moscow is kind of the hub for the leaders of these various groups. So while not most of the kidnapping happens in Moscow, the people responsible for it are here. Rare swords in the area. There are some museums and private collections that you will get information on. Magical and unique bars in Moscow. Yes, in fact, there is a handful. However, there are rumors circulating about vampire bars that are very exclusive, and there are no addresses for any of those because Marius is not a vampire and therefore can't get that information. However, it is theorized that if someone were to be a vampire and were to get in good with the nobles, they would be able to get the information on where these various bars and nightclubs are, which apparently cater, quite literally, to the feeding habits of the infected. Cable Master, right. Twister, yeah, so these guys actually did a run with the Cable Master a few months back.
Yeah?
Yeah, and they were hired by her to basically be her muscle and protection, Marius being her backup hacker, and he notes in his files that she was very impressive and that he... not that he idolizes her or anything, because he's not that emotional, but he definitely implied a professional level of respect for her that he wouldn't share with anyone else.
He might be your daddy.
No, he's not.
No, not the daddy. Basically, this is as close to gushing that Marius would ever get. But yeah, the nature of the job was they were looking into... Can you guess?
Evo?
Bars?
Nope.
Nightclubs?
Kidnapping
No.
and human trafficking.
Oh.
Yeah, it was apparently a job she was hired to do, to look into a different kind of human trafficking deal for rare metahumans.
Oh.
Oh no.
You know, like people with blue skin and 4 arms called Narthaki.
Nenes.
No, not Nenes, no. No.
Even rarer.
Well, no, not rarer than Nenes. There's only 4 of those.
No.
But
Well.
Narthaki are from India, basically. They're Shiva. And...
4 arms, blue skin.
Yeah. Also, giants, Oni, pretty much the metahumans who were resulting of the Surge mutation. So, yeah, Nene would also be on that list, but Nene is, well, one of a kind, and they were... It's hard to say. Dryads, potentially, but Dryads just look like everyday ordinary elves. But, yeah, it could be related to that as well. Gang hotspots or people of... I guess I should finish with Cable Master. When the job was done, they were basically doing a data heist. She was collecting some data. They were not privy to what she was getting. Once she got it, she paid them handsomely for their help, and they parted ways. So, as far as they know, last they saw her, she was in Moscow, but that was months ago. So they have no idea where she is now. They just know, in particular, she was looking for a Nartaki. One in particular that was related to this kidnapping ring. Gang hotspots or people of interest. Gangs in Moscow are pretty much curtailed because of the Vori. There are a few, but generally they get subsumed into the Vori. But in the, Z zones and the barrens and the really shitty neighborhoods, there are effectively gangs, yes. Hotspots for those would be provided to you on a map, basically. People of interest from them. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Ray.
Like lieutenants, captains, people of major influence within them, I'm guessing.
Yeah, basically.
Alright, so, the names of various leaders of some of the small gangs, sure, no problem. Mr. O's recent activities. He's moved to Moscow. That's pretty much all they know. He's a new player in the Moscow scene. And he seems to be making inroads with Evo, not on behalf of the Yakuza, but on behalf of himself. And he's making ripples amongst the Yakuza, the Triad, and the Vori, which, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I'm going to tell you about next week's mission as well. corrupt or Shadowrun-friendly police or military contacts. Yep, you can get a list of them. Pretty much every single police organization in Moscow has somebody that you could chum up with to get out of minor infractions. But, getting caught red-handed in a police evidence locker, no number of friends is going to save you from that kind of fallout.
Ace knows one.
Official grand pardon by the Prime Minister?
They don't have a prime minister.
Oh, well, I'm trying to... whatever that...
Information brokers. This one, sadly, Frosty, they will have names-ish, kinda. They didn't really know how to handle this information. That was regrettably mainly Megan's domain. So what they have are basically the places she went to when she said she was going to go meet with an information broker.
Yeah, well, at least it's something.
Twister, any attacks Athena's company, well, we don't want to reveal which company Athena's
that would be a
working
private
for,
messaging
right?
thing.
So I will say that, you can get a list of all of the Shadow community runs that happened in the last 3 years that went up against major AAA corporations and were revealed to be Shadowrun operations. However, there were probably plenty more that happened that none of you have ever heard of, and they haven't ever heard of either. B&E worthy locations. So I'm guessing you mean places that have a fair amount of assets and wealth, but low security, right?
Yeah.
Also, Twister, did you want to say something?
I'm
just
sorry.
broadcasting.
I meant,
Okay.
I meant to
Okay.
ask.
But yeah, you can get a list of some places that would have decent monetary value with moderate to low security options. Leads on Japanese sacred and historical artifacts on the black market or in private collection where they shouldn't be. This will be a shorter list, but it looks like a lot of Evo executives have private collections that officially they have the correct paperwork for, but unofficially, not so much.
Okay. This is interesting.
Additionally, there seems to also be Yakuza, Triad, and Vori. Though the Vori seem to have the least number of these, the Yakuza have the most, naturally.
Well, that makes sense.
Political gang ties, like who in the government is connected with the Vori and whatnot. The answer to this one is just yes. It doesn't seem like there are any politicians in Moscow or Russia at large that have completely clean hands. There seems to at least be 2 degrees of separation from any politician to somebody in organized crime, even if it's a tangential connection. But you've got basically one of those, in movies when they got the strings on the little pins and they put it up
web
on
tree?
a board? Web tree, yeah. Basically a web tree of politician, connection, Vori, criminal kind of thing. So, yeah, this country seems to be very corrupt to the core on a political level.
So I guess it'd be a lot easier to do 7 degrees of separation here than it is in other places. Because you just do it real quick.
Okay, great.